Hello there, everyone. I am here right now to tell you about psychic self-defense. Now, psychic self-defense is really important anytime you want to do anything where you're interacting with the spiritual world at a conscious level. And the reason it's important is because when you're interacting with the spirit world, you need to realize that just like when you interact in the human world, you have humans that have your best interest at heart and are kind and wonderful and would never do anything to harm you. And then you also have humans who are more selfishly oriented and a little bit more careless about how they would affect you. And it's the same way in the spirit world. You have wonderful spirits that you'll interact with that will look out for your best interest, and then you have other spirits that you'll interact with that maybe are not. Mm, they're just a little bit more selfishly oriented. They are not concerned about any effects that they might have on you. And because of this, that's why we need protection. We need to make sure that we are standing in a safe place when we cross over into the spirit world, as far as spiritually speaking. Um, The reason that this is so important is because if you are not protected, the consequences can be very serious. So, before you start reading tarot cards, before you start casting runes, before you start doing anything that would interact with spirit, it's important to have a method of psychic self-defense that you know, that you're comfortable with, that you can use very easily and quickly all the time. And basically, you want to have the psychic self-defense so that you're so comfortable with it that it's just constantly, constantly, constantly activated around you. Um, the consequences, if we don't have psychic self-defense in place, like I said, can be very serious. This can lead to depression, mood swings, insanity, suicide, homicide, um, because you can have some negatively impacting you spirits that are around, and if you're open to them, they can really impact you. So that's why the defense is so important. And so I just want to stress once again, before you start doing anything to work in the spiritual world, um, definitely have your defense in place. Get comfortable with your psychic self-defense before you start to do anything in the spiritual world at all. So my favorite psychic self-defense I'm going to share with you. There are all kinds of different ways to put up psychic self-defense for yourself, and it's important that you find one that you're very comfortable with. I can't tell you all the ways. I don't practice all of the ways, but I can tell you the way I do it. And so I'm just going to kind of walk you through. It's almost like a meditation slash visualization all at the same time. And I'm just going to walk you through it. Please understand that as I am walking you through it, it takes a lot longer for me to walk you through it than it actually does to go through this process on your own, especially once you've had practice with it. I can literally go through this process in a matter of about 5 to 10 seconds now, where where it's going to take me a few minutes just to walk you guys through. So um, don't think that psychic self-defense has to take a long time to be effective, because it doesn't. It just has to do what you need it to do and what you want it to do. And intention is so important. So setting your intention is the most important part of this. So here's what I like to do. I like to imagine myself surrounded by a super brilliant white light. And the kind of white light I'm thinking about, if any of you are familiar with the Bible, is the one that is spoken about whenever God shows himself to Moses. There's a time in a cave when he walks by Moses, and he covers Moses' face when he walks by, because if he saw God's face directly, it would be too much for him. But he could see, after he passed, he could see the back of God without it being too much for him. And basically what he saw, if you read that account in the Bible, and I don't remember the chapter or the verse, you would have to Google that somewhere, but he saw God's back, and he basically saw this bright, bright, bright light exuding from God. so that really any details weren't clear. The only thing that he could see was this light. So that's the kind of light that I imagine, this super bright white light. And I imagine that it carries with it all the attributes of God. So good health, wealth, financial ease, freedom to do the things that we want and we need to do, ease in life, um, prosperity, graciousness, kindness, um, sharing, generosity, liveliness, cheerfulness, happiness, joy, bliss, all of those things that we associate with God. I imagine as them being a part of this white light that I imagine myself being surrounded by. And as I am surrounded by this white light, I know that I am breathing that in, and I am breathing in all of those attributes at the same time that I am breathing in that light. So every time I inhale, I imagine all of this coming into my body. And as it's coming into my body, it is starting to be distributed to every single cell in my body, just a little bit with every breath, until all the cells are completely full of this white light and all of its holy attributes. And then as I am exhaling, anything negative is coming out. Any anxiety, any fears, any worry, any anger, any pretentiousness, anything of ego that's in the way, all of this stuff, I just imagine breathing that out and letting that white light that it's breathed out into filter that and purify it and make it whole and wonderful again. And so as I continue breathing in more of God's beautiful white light, breathing out more negative. Eventually, I breathe in enough of the white light that all of my cells are completely filled with it to where there's not room for anything negative left. And now, because there's not room for anything negative, anything that hasn't already been breathed away from me is now exuding out of my pores with every breath as well. So now once I've exuded all the rest of the negative out of my pores, now I'm breathing in that white light with all its attributes, and I'm overflowing with it. So now I'm breathing out that white light. And as I'm breathing out that white light that's mingled with my energy, this is filling up the room that I'm in. And as I continue to breathe out that white light, as I continue to breathe in that white light and overflow with it, that white light is coming out of my pores. It is coming out of my nose or my mouth as I'm breathing. It's filling up the room, filling up the building, filling up the block where I live or where I am. And once that white light is around me and surrounding me, what it's doing is it is keeping any spirits away from me who cannot stand in God's light. So in other words, any pure spirits, any spirits that are in alignment with God can come in and communicate with me and be around me and influence me. Any spirits who cannot stand in that light, they don't even want to be there. It's not good for them. It's not healthy for them to be standing in that light when that light is too much for them. So that's my psychic self-defense. And then I generally like to top that off, because I am who I am. I like to top that off with a prayer at the end once I feel like I know I'm secure and safe. I like to top that off with a prayer that anybody who I come in contact with will be influenced in a positive way by this energy that is exuding out of me during the day as I continue to breathe in this white light and overflow with it outwards. And that I've seen have some really marvelous effects on people around me. Excuse me. Especially when I used to work in an office setting. I began doing that while I worked in that setting. And the way people interacted with me changed, and gradually over time, they were changing and becoming more balanced themselves. It was almost as if this energy was calling them to some place higher, to a place that was more enlightened, more ascended, without me having to preach to them or teach them or say anything to them about it. They just responded to it. Whether they knew what they were responding to or not, I don't really know. Nobody ever said anything, so maybe they didn't, and that's okay. Um, but it brought more peace into my life because it brought more peace into their lives, and they were around me. So it ended up, I did it to help the people around me, and of course it ended up benefiting me as well. So that's the way I like to do psychic self-defense. I like to take it a little step further. I like to make it psychic offense too. Have that God energy around us and just working subtly with the people around us, besides just protecting us from anything negative, but making positive impact and positive changes. So that is what I have to say about psychic self-defense. I hope you find what I have to say useful. If you like what I do, that's great. Take it, tweak it, make it your own. Use it as much as you want. Use it until you feel comfortable using it. Every once in a while, I might remind myself, oh, I'm still breathing in that light wherever I am, even if I'm out running errands. Still breathing in that light. And just reminding myself, you want to keep your psychic self-defense active all the time. Really, if you're doing anything supernatural at all, and honestly, even if you're not, we should always have something like that going. It's just not something that we're taught as children. But I think that we should be taught to do psychic self-defense at the same time that we're taught to brush our teeth or to wash our hands. It's just as important. So anyway, that's what I have to say about that. Thank you everybody for stopping by, for listening. I do appreciate it. I'll see you all next time.